I am Eon, and it is Sunday, March the 30th, 2025. Apologies, I'm either fighting off something or probably pollen, and that's why my voice is a little bit on the worse side than normal. So I'm probably not going to try and talk through too much of this, but let's look at the fantasy print previews coming up in April 2025. We'll come back and look at this more once April starts. But Animal Den Miniatures we're going to start off with. Wait a second, that's a whale? I did not write it down, but I think that's a goblin shark. Arbiter Miniatures is continuing with Goblin Warband Part 3. Artisan's Guild is coming back with some dwarves. Apparently this is an April tradition, that April will always be dwarves with Artisan's Guild. These are magma forged. Archvillain Games is doing Gravebound Children of Null. Avatars of War. It has a Goblin Bolt Thrower Kit. I believe this is an April release. It's a little confusing with Avatars of War. BattleYak. These are harnessing the power of infernal music. These are Discordians. And these are the Flutists of Flame. They come with several different head options. The Beholder Miniatures has put out their preview. A lot of really cool minis here. I believe this is Noira, Whisperer of the Trees. These are some Snapdragons command group. And Oru, the Tree Shepherd. Catapult with crew, along with some Rangers. Now these Rangers also come with a hooded variety as well, or variant. Here we have the Sky Thunder, and these are the Stormwolf Storm Knights command group. Belksasar 3D is doing Son of Doom 2. Sand Necromancers. Bestiarum Miniatures. Robert Joker recommended these a long time ago. Have given us some artwork. And some very hungry caterpillars. Bite the Bullet Studios is doing iconic monsters. Now, I'll be honest, a few of these are not iconic to me. I'm not familiar with an anathema. Beholder, of course. Here we have Yerger and a Fire Hellion, Chimera and Draconian, Owlbear with its cubs, a Displacer with its cubs. I guess spring is in the air. Here's a Gargoyle with a couple of minions. Maybe not necessarily its children. Some 1T, and an exotic version of Loth, Queen of Spiders. Blackcrest Miniatures has put out a little bit of a preview. They're doing Possum Folk this month. This is a Scrap Heap Legion. It reminds me of Lester's Possum Farm from the Goofy movie. One with the banjo. Cast and Play is doing Demon's Gate. So here's a brief look at some of what we'll be getting Cast and Play. Obviously we'll come back with some better renders once they've released those and the month has begun. Not sure what's going on with her face, but Claudio Casini Art has Cleric Multi-Race, Bearfolk Warrior, and an Elder Brain. Is that a Grell? Clay Beast Creation have these guys coming out. This is the Dark Legions. Comet Lord has put out an interesting release with the Living Failures. There are several sculpts of these. Then there's the Malformed Beast. Kind of reminds me of that statue from the original Beetlejuice. The Deviation of Form. There's definitely a theme here. Not sure what to call it. Creature Caster is doing the Executioner of Onslaught in April. Crippled God Foundry is doing Denizens of Hell, the Tomb of Pain, excuse me. Here's the Lord of Pain. Mummy Lord with some pygmy mummies. Saber Cats and Dune Raiders. Blunderboars and Isandra, the Desert Sorceress. And some various scatter terrain for the tomb. Why I keep doing that? Custom Miniature Maker is apparently doing Labyrinth of the Ripper this month as part of their theme. So we'll stick in too. Daybreak Miniatures has put out this preview of the Bone Branch Tribe, which apparently are a set of goblins. Looks like meat's back on the menu. And a couple of busts. Dino and Dog has put out a few previews as well. These are Microraptors. And a Gigantoraptor on the right. And then for their Dungeons release, I believe. DM Stash is doing, I forget what it's called offhand. Hold on, we'll get to the graphic in a second. But something about Boulder. It's a Grim Siege. There's a couple interesting miniatures in here. Well, as a 4-year anniversary statue. A Vengeance Paladin. Very interesting. Dragon Trapper's Lodge is doing Kingdoms of the Sun this month. Obviously African themed in many ways, or inspired, I suppose I should say. There's some pretty cool miniatures. Like, I'm pretty sure this is inspired of Anansi, and I'm assuming that's his human form on the right, or in the middle rather. But very cool mini, very detailed. Heralds of the Apocalypse Part 3 is continuing, and again, just a few previews. We'll look at this in more detail once April comes. And my voice hopefully returns. Dragon's Lake Miniatures is doing the Knights of Stonsel, I believe it's called. Empire of Sunstal, sorry, excuse me. And here we go. Couple of weapon options there. I wonder if he's hunting, and what is he hunting? But he wants you to be very quiet. Duncan Shadow is doing Death Knights. The Lich Lord and his Queen, and some heavily armored skeletons, and some skelly bones, and the Miller. Dungeon Classics has given us a preview as well. Dungeon Dog is got some bandits this month. Epic Miniatures, we'll do a more full preview in April, but for update number 1, we have Deep Sea Mysteries. These are sapphire dragons. That's a pretty quick view of Epic Miniatures. Again, we'll come back in full detail. Fate's End has a Frontier going, or about to go, rather. It is not here just yet. Definitely want to give you a shout out to go look at that and check it out if you have any interest in it. Flesh of Gods Miniatures this month is doing the Abyssal Doom. There is the Leviathan. Let's take a look and see what else is in April. and a couple of busts. Fleshcraft Studio is doing the Hollow Root Covenant. There's the Hollow Root Effigy, which is, I know the render is a bit extra, but that is a really cool mini. Here we see Willumbra, the Hollow Warden. Gaz Minis is doing Nefari, the Owl Tamer. And some other previews. Ghamak has given us some concept art for the fantasy release, but not for sci-fi. Looks like we're going to do some orcs. Continue with the Shogunate as well. Goetia Miniatures is doing Madhouse this month. That's the dimensional phage on the left and the neurotransmitter on the right. Void Parasite and Carrier of the Ashes. Voice of Madness and the Parasited Straight Jacket Cultist. There's a few of those. And this is apparently Arachnes. Arachnes. Something like that. Goonmaster Games is doing some Scornful Snails. Snails with feet just feels wrong. No offense to Goonmaster, just they're not the first ones to do that, but it's definitely different. And Owl Soldiers. Great Grimoire is doing the Whispers of the Riot, and this is all we have to preview at the moment. Hardwitch Games is got this preview out for us. Heroes Infinite, as I was putting this together today, actually released Mortenberg Chronicles, Dark Lords of the Ever-Shifting Sands. So we have a few different miniatures here to look at. Now, of course, all of this is just a sampling, and you can go check out their YouTube channel to see a little bit more of what's coming out in April. Highlands Miniatures is continuing with the Aegean Elves, Volume 3, 5. I think it's Volume 5, maybe. That may be just me. M3 Desion is doing 14 different miniatures, plus some bits to help customize them. A black dragon and some orcs that ride. Erkman's Minis has quite a few things going on here. And I'll be honest, creators like this make me feel like I need to create a third category video just for like models, like things that aren't fantasy or sci-fi, but deserve a video definitely. This is apparently Yellow Gadget, Red Gadget, and Green Gadget. I'm not familiar with from what, but we'll look more in that in April. JHC has put out this preview of a Drider that they're working on, and I think that's pretty cool looking actually. Labyrinth Models this month is doing the Narakan Dwarves. And we'll come back and look at those in more detail in April. Last Sword Miniatures has put out a few previews. Here's the General on Chariot and the Anglo-Saxon Ferdinand. The Dustcraft Master of Assassins. Beastmaster on a Raptor, Sorceress on Horse. Some shades. and Abyssal Harpies. Loot Studios has previewed Trials of Hades. There's Orpheus and Heracles, Hades Sphinx, and Hades himself. Low Level Encounter is doing the bears. Mama Bear, Daddy Bear, and I guess Baby Bear. Mammoth Factory has done some previews. Here we see Urashulga of the Depths. And you can see all the different inspirations that they use for their minis. Looks like we'll be getting some pirates. There's Jacked Sparrow. And Piotr Pandem. Mammoth Props has put out a small preview. Looks like we're going to be doing some mushroom-inspired stuff this month. Mantic Vault has put out this preview image. We'll come back and look at it in more detail once the month starts, and Mantic has put out more detail about it. Looks to be a little bit more on the sci-fi side this month. Mini Monster Mayhem will be coming to White Dragons April 8th. Stay tuned. MOM Miniatures has this release for the month of April. Again, depending on what tier you get, you'll get more or less. Nerixon has put out some previews for April. This is a book nook. Pretty cool book nook. I don't know if your situation is similar to mine. I don't have really any empty book space to put book nooks, sadly. But again, that's just a 32mm mini to show you the scale of this thing. And in addition to the book, the interior, the exterior of it is also very detailed as well. You'll also be getting several miniatures from Nerixon as well. There's the Nameless Hero, Helmeted or Not, and the Shattered King. NPC Forge this month will be doing the Wanderers. Pretty cool little party, it looks like. NS Miniatures has put out these previews. And these things have names, but I did not write them down, and I don't think I could pronounce them even if I did. One Page Rules is going to be doing Wood Elves for Fantasy in the month of April. And so these seem to be some of the previews that they have put out for that. Of course, we know we'll expect a lot more from One Page Rules. Papal 3D has The Watcher. And Vana. Primal Collectibles is teasing us very hard for the month of April. With this fella here, and it says Legacy of Blood. And after they posted this, they also posted this image and say, wait, look at this. Wow. And for those of you that don't know, I'm pretty sure that is Strahd, because another one of their posts was talking about inspiration of Strahd from Raven's Loft in D&D. Punga Miniatures It has some Asian-inspired fantasy football team. Ogre on the right. Rescale Miniatures is doing the Warden of Lies. Was one of those the Warden, maybe? It's a pretty serious compound bow. Sculpt Tuner has put out this preview of Frostbite Peaks 3. Signum Games has put out some sketch artwork. I'd be curious to see what they have for us in April. Terrain Essentials is going along with kind of the Easter Bunnyland theme, and I would recommend that you check out their actual page. These are actually animated GIFs, but they didn't copy over as animated for me. And I was in a hurry to get this done before my voice completely gives out. Threat Factory has put out this small preview. Tiles from the Crypt has these ruined dwarven pillars. But when you put together with some lava, you can see a lot of inspiration for what this can do. Titan Forge Miniatures has Vampire Pirates and the Highborn Elves. A lot of detail in that vampire, pirate, shaman, whatever he is, guy. We also have some of the crab folk sorts of undead pirates. And looks like they came with their own mermaids. The Titans of Adventures are 3 adventurers. They usually come with 3 different poses each. So slight variations depending on what you want them to look like. And then a couple of little enemies for the mortal enemies. These, is that an Enkeg? Seems right. Twin Goddess Minis has a few previews. Txarli Factory is done preview of this church, along with some pawns. Ugni Miniatures is doing fantasy football. They're doing the second set of the Easter bunnies. Vae Victis is doing River Patrol. War Games Atlantic has several previews out. I did not bother writing down what these were because this is a preview. And if you know what these are, then you're probably interested. And if you don't know what they are, then maybe not so interested. War Games is very good at doing a lot of very specific historical pieces. White Angel is doing Infernal Empire. Now, I know the one on the left says February, but that's the April release. See, all the other graphics say April. White Werewolf Tavern has put out their theme is Better the Devil You Know. Their artwork is always really well done. World Forge Miniatures is doing some mushrooms, crystal mushrooms at that. I feel like there should be a whole biome in Minecraft dedicated to something like this. And well, folks, that's going to end it. My voice is probably on its way out. And thankfully, we made it through the video. Thank you for putting up with me and my voice today. And I apologize for not having this out a couple of days ago before April starts, but I'm going to try to get this out as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.